Outside of the village, Gaara was standing in a large grass field with his arms folded. Judging by the scene, it was obvious that he and the bald rock Jinchuriki were fighting for about 15 minutes. The landscape was slightly changed due to Gaara's sand and the rock shinobi's earth jutsus. The rock shinobi addressed the Kazekage with a blank stare. Gaara of the desert, I hear you are strong. I really don't wish to fight you. However, I will do what Lord Tsuchikage requests of me. If that means defeating you, then so be it. Gaara responded, It sounds like you're nothing but a weapon for that man. Nothing but a tool. I was created to live only for my village. I am the blade of the rock which is guided by the Tsuchikage, the bald shinobi said. Gaara shook his head. You are a fool, Alwasado. Shinobi are not just tools. Yes, we are. You are one of the biggest tools for your village, are you not? Being a Jinchuriki, you know the purpose and the reasons we were created. We were created to destroy for our villages, nothing more. Your village made you Kazekage simply because of your strength. Suna wields the weapon which is you, and the cloud wields that which is Koen. All of us. Tools. Without being useful, we are nothing. Lord Tsuchikage has made me useful. I am needed. Why do I exist? I used to ask. He gave me that answer. To fight for him. You remind me of this guy I fought once. He too praised the ground of the man who gave him purpose. Jinchurikis can be tools, but we are also human, Gaara pointed out. Our kind is far from human. Villagers let us know that every chance they get. We're nothing but monsters, efficient killers, and demon vessels, Alwasado said with a hint of anger. With his typical melancholic expression, Gaara spoke. So, you've experienced the pain of being a Jinchuriki as well. That was like you. I asked what my purpose was and why did I exist. I couldn't find an answer like you, so I came up with my own. It was to prove my existence by fighting the strongest opponents. If I lived it, then that would prove my worth, but if I died, then it meant I was only weak. I lived for myself, loved only myself. That was until I fought a shinobi who showed me the true meaning of strength. Oh, and what is that true meaning? Protect that which is precious to you. That's the true strength of anyone, Gaara said. Who told you something like that? Alwasado asked. Someone who understands what it's like to be a Jinchuriki since he is one. He is the only man to ever defeat me in battle. He looked confused. Another Jinchuriki? I wasn't aware there were any others except for those in cloud, sand, and mist. Nope, there is another one right here in the village as we speak. In fact, I think he slaughtered over 100 shinobi from your village. The bald ninja's eyes widened. That can't be, you mean? Yes, Naruto Uzumaki is a Jinchuriki, Gaara informed the stunned ninja. He just smirked. No wonder he's so strong. What tailed beast does he hold? The Kyubi, Gaara said with no hint of emotion. The nine-tailed demon fox, it makes sense. The golden fox, holder of the nine tails. Well, I guess I shouldn't play around with you any longer, Gaara. I have to be useful to Lord Tsuchikage. I will start by finishing the order given to me to kill you, said the rock Jinchuriki as a green aura started to surround his body. Green liquid shot from the mouth of Alwasado. Gaara's sand rose to shield his face, and with the impact, the sand fell to the ground. Gaara took notice of this. So, can disable my sand. That's the power given to him from the Yonbi. Gaara shot a stream of sand, only to have Alwasado jump over it. In mid-air, using his own version of the water bullet, he shot a green liquid bullet at Gaara. But the auto-defense, courtesy of Shukaku, shielded Gaara. Again, the sand fell to the ground, turning a ghostly gray. Gaara took note of this again. It seems that the power of this green liquid is to kill everything it touches. Is that the gift given to him? Gaara wondered. The bald warrior landed a few feet away from Gaara. He smiled. Your sand, it automatically protects you, I see. You don't even have to impose your will on it. If that is why they call you Gaara of the desert, then I am not impressed at all. Gaara didn't say anything. In fact, he was planning his next steps carefully. To do what he wanted it would take about 10 minutes, which is why he was stalling. Gaara spoke. This fight ends here. Clasping his hands together, Ryusa Bakuryu. Gaara's opponent couldn't believe what he was seeing. Here they were, in a grass field, with virtually no sand around, and in an instant, it was wind country. The avalanche rushed towards them so fast that had it been a slower person, they would have gotten caught in the initial attack. However, he wasn't slow. He jumped and dodged the first wave of sand that crashed into the ground, but he never expected the sand to be controlled to such a degree to where it was like extra hands being controlled by Gaara. When a stream of sand wrapped around his foot, it threw him into the wall of sand that appeared behind him. All of the sand converged on him, completely engulfing Alwasado. Trying to get free as the sand pushed him, he was completely submerged. The whole area was now a desert, courtesy of Gaara. Gaara slammed both his hands into the ground. I'm not done yet. Using his hands to send shockwaves through the sand to compress it. Desert Imperial Funeral will end this. After performing the technique, Gaara slowly stood to survey his work. He narrowed his eyes. He's not dead. Gaara felt the violent vibrations in the sand that continued to get more violent by the second, but this didn't change the expression on Gaara's face. Alert to the situation, Gaara jumped from his position to avoid the pocket of gas that shot from it. Suspended in air due to his sand, he watched as green gas erupted from all over the newly formed desert. He then heard a voice. You are truly impressive, Gaara. Slowly rising out of the sand was Alwasado, but not the person Gaara recognized. The guy before him now had two tails and had the head of a lizard and the eyes of a snake. Green scaly skin. He was a lizard humanoid of sorts with a green aura surrounding him. Gaara's eyes narrowed. Shit, I didn't want to bring Shukaku into this battle. Looks like I have no choice though. Slowly the ground transformed and the sand covered his form until he was a miniature Shukaku. Still riding his sand, Gaara slowly descended to an area not seeping with that deadly gas. Once he landed, he spoke. This fight serves no purpose. Even us using these forms is pointless. If we lose control, then everyone suffers. Alwasado gave Gaara a confused look. Lose control? You mean to tell me that you don't have full control over your Bijuu? Remember, Lord Kazekage, that I am only using half of what the Soku is capable of. I will tell you this. I can use all four tails without being controlled. Don't worry if you lose control. It will only be bad for you. I'll have the power, and be consciously aware to control it. Don't worry, I'll kill you before you lose control. Fool, if I lose control, you won't stand a chance against me, Gaara warned him. Alwasado didn't care. It didn't matter to him because Gaara couldn't beat him. He watched as Gaara became a miniature Shukaku, while he himself became a miniature Soku. His tails were swaying from side to side as he stared Gaara down. Flying through hand seals, the reptilian-looking man covered the area in a green type of smog. Gaara launched Sand Shuriken at the other demon vessel, who dodged it easily. Alwasado was studying Gaara as well. That sand is a nuisance. I'm sure someone like him has gotten reliant on his auto-defense. This is perfect. The deadly gas that was granted to me by the Yonbi will kill all that it touches. The sand the fog touches is useless. But there is enough sand here for him to incorporate it and fuse it with the sand that is a part of the gourd. I have to attack him head on. He's a long-range type, and that will be his downfall. Alwasado wasted no time running towards Gaara. He found himself dodging streams of bullets of sand crashing down at him. When he got within striking distance of Gaara, he aimed a punch at Gaara's face. The sand shield went up, but his hand was encapsulated with the green aura that allowed him to penetrate through the sand. It ends here. The punch connected and sent Gaara stumbling back a few feet. Alwasado continued his attack only to have Gaara dodge it and be protected by the sand that was collapsing with every hit. He finally connected with a punch that sent Gaara reeling back. He spoke with a tone of superiority. It seems that you'll lose, Lord Kazekage. Gaara's face couldn't be seen. He was facing the ground, in a low tone that could only be heard by Alwasado. Don't go thinking I'll lose so quickly. Gaara slowly rose his head until his eyes locked in Alwasado's eyes. Alwasado was a bit surprised at what he saw. The area where his fists connected, he could see sand falling from that area. Damn, he even has sand compacted against his body. Truly a tough opponent. I can see why he only lost once, as he claims. I guess I have to turn it up. Another tail formed from Alwasado's back, but that wasn't the only thing that happened. He began to transform until he was about the height of Gaara in Shukaku form. Gaara of the Desert. That is a name I will remember for years to come. You are the first person to go up against this form. You should feel proud, Gaara. This power. It's the Yonbi. How troublesome, Gaara mentally noted. He watched as Alwasado transformed into a green lizard with red eyes. Gaara had no choice. It was still hard to control Shukaku, but he knew that he had to at least transform. He transformed in the state before Shukaku was awakened. Seeing the Yonbi lizard was just as big, Gaara could feel the bloodlust coming from Shukaku. The demon was in his head saying, "Kill him now. Better yet, unleash me and I will kill him. I want his blood. His blood." "Calm yourself. Don't interfere. Don't interfere," Gaara repeated over and over. Gaara looked at his surroundings. "I have to end this quick. If we take too long, we'll change the landscape completely." Both warriors stood glaring at one another, waiting for the other to attack. Somewhere in the village, Shikamaru and Temari were helping fend off enemy ninjas who tried to advance further into the village. They were defending the northern gate and their teamwork was phenomenal. Standing back to back, both warriors' eyes widened slightly when they felt two demonic auras. One was already familiar to Temari. She whispered, "Gaara, we have to get to him before he loses control, Temari. If he does, then the village doesn't stand a chance." "No one stands a chance," Shikamaru pointed out. She nodded. "Let's go." The two shinobi blurred from view in the direction of Gaara, a mile or so away. Anko was standing on Mondo while Jiraiya was on Gamabunta. Both summons hated each other, but this time they were commanded by people with the same goal: protect the village. Anko looked at Jiraiya, who was at her right. "Lord Jiraiya, how about I take those two on the left and you take the summon on the right?" Jiraiya nodded. "Fine by me. I think we should finish this quickly though. That Gaara kid is transforming." Anko nodded. "Understood." A voice beneath yelled out, "Summoning Jutsu!" When the large cloud of smoke cleared, Katsuya was in the middle of the pack with Sakura standing on the giant slug's head. "I've decided to aid you guys." "Good timing, Sakura, but honestly you should be in the village," Jiraiya said to the girl. "It's okay, Shizune is there and we have tons of great doctors. Honestly, the village needs me on the front lines. Forget about that, let's focus on these guys." Sakura pointed at the creatures before them. Anko licked her lips. "This should be very fun." Jiraiya gave her a weird glance. "That tongue has just inspired me to write the love scene in the next each volume." He broke away from his thought to speak. "Yeah, we have to hurry. Gaara is going to go off the deep end." Gaara wasn't the only person Jiraiya was worried about. "I just hope Naruto doesn't lose control and drag out the Kyuubi's power. Six Tails is just too dangerous for anyone to go up against." Jiraiya knew that he had to take the summon he was up against down quick. He yelled for Gamabunta to attack, and that is just what the giant toad did, in Stone-Faced Mountains. Sitting around waiting for the ruckus to die down were the civilians, academy students, academy instructors, and a few genin. Makinu, along with Yumi, Hayami, Ranpu, Akuru, Futeki, Yasumi, and Mai, were in the mountains when the attack started, and thanks to Jiraiya, they were all bored. Iruka, one of the many academy instructors, wondered what was happening. He wished he was out there fighting, but he knew that his duty was to the students. Makino, who was leaning against the stone walls, glanced at Iruka. "Iruka-sensei, what do you think is going on out there?" He shook his head. "I wish I could tell you, but it wouldn't be anything you don't already know. The fact is, we're at war. You witnessed it yourself. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I do know that the evacuation isn't done yet." Futeki, who was sitting next to Makinu, looked up at Iruka. "So what happens when it's complete?" "It means we counter-strike with the full force of the village," a figure in the shadows answered. Iruka turned to see Sai come forth with civilians. He addressed Futeki. "Right now the evacuation process is still going on. It won't be until another 30 minutes or so until everyone is evacuated. However, every shinobi from the leaf, sand, grass, and waterfall is giving their all to drive the enemy back. Lady Hokage is fighting for us now as we speak. Also, with the appearance of that Minashu guy, who's taken out a large number of enemy ninja at the stadium, and Naruto, who seems to be using the fourth technique, causing many rock shinobi to flee. So it should take us less time to evacuate everyone." Hayami jumped up with a smile. "Big brother Shinji's at the stadium?" Sai looked at the girl. "I can only assume you mean the Minashu guy. If so, then yes. Well, I have to go. There are many more civilians and I need to get to safety." "Do you need any help?" Makinu asked. Sai looked at him and gave him a smile. "Sorry, but a weakling like you would only get in my way." He didn't have a chance to try and attack him. Sai was gone as fast as he came. Makinu just balled his fists, mumbling something. That was until he heard a villager say, "Do you believe that the monster knows the technique of our beloved fourth?" Another villager spoke. "He must have stolen the secret scrolls or something. That bastard's insulting the legacy of our dear fourth. I hope he dies out there," one lady said. Yumi couldn't take it anymore. She snapped, "Would you all shut up?" Everyone turned to Yumi. "You all know about Naruto and I hate him, but do you even really know why? And don't say it's because of that. All of you should be ashamed of yourselves. Cursed with the fate that he didn't even ask for, treated horribly by people who never gave him a chance, only chosen to use him as a scapegoat. Even now, even if his pride doesn't let him admit it, he's fighting for all of us, not just me, Hayami, but all of us. You're fools, just fools." A man stood up and pointed a finger at Yumi. "Of course this whore would defend him. You can die along with that monster." Iruka stepped in. "You're pathetic, you know that. Wishing death on him for something that was well out of his realm of control. You sure are a great man, aren't you? Iruka, you more than any of us can understand. Why don't you hate him after what he did to your parents?" The guy hoped Iruka would sympathize with them since he went through the same pain of losing loved ones to the Kyuubi. Iruka, on the other hand, just shook his head. "I did want to place blame on him, but then I started to realize that the two were completely different, not one and the same. Sure, my parents are gone, but he wasn't responsible for it. The boy has saved this village from Gaara during the Sound/Sand invasion. He is the reason why Lady Tsunade is Hokage, and the reason why our village is still standing. He is not a monster in my eyes. He's always been the village's ultimate hero. Not even the 4th Hokage surpasses him in that." The man was about to say something, but Teuchi, the owner of the Ichiraku, stepped forth with his daughter. "Iruka is right. Whatever your perception or misconceived notion of him is, just that, misconceived. Monster? He's hardly that. A glutton, that, I will admit. But Naruto, a monster. That's just ludicrous. He's still a monster. I don't care what you say. Prove to me he's not. When you can provide the proof, then maybe I'll believe you." A female around Iruka's age spoke. Iruka smiled, then pointed to Hayami. "She is all the proof that is required." A female in her mid-30s questioned Iruka. "How is she all the proof that is required?" "Because monsters don't eliminate 300 shinobi to protect a little girl." She was a little shocked. "You mean to tell me that incident in those 2 countries a year ago was because of her?" All the gazes turned to Hayami, who buried her head into her knees. Iruka nodded. "Yes, he was willing to give up his life to make sure she lived. Monsters don't do that. How many of you would be brave enough to take on 300 shinobi to save a loved one?" The villagers that knew Naruto's secret, as well as those who didn't, put their head down in shame. Iruka just shook his head. "And he's the monster." Some of the older villagers and those around Iruka's age put their head down. Ranpu, who had his chest wrapped in gauze by medics, who were tending to the injured inside the stone-faced mountains, turned to look at the crowd. "Well, the fact of the matter is, that guy saved us. And from what that guy told us, he's also responsible for everyone safely retreating. Call him what you want, but he's fighting on our behalf, and seeing what he can do firsthand, you should be glad he's on our side." One of the females with long brown hair stepped forward and bent down in front of Hayami. She placed a hand on the girl's forearm, causing her to look up. She smiled at the girl. Such innocence in her eyes. "I wonder, why protect you? What are you to him? Monsters aren't supposed to care for people, yet." She glanced at Yumi, who was looking at her suspiciously. "He protects you, her, and the village. Even if we fail to see this, why?" Ibara looked at her friend. "What are you saying, Tsubaki?" She turned to her friend. "Come on, Ibara, don't be blind. I hated that boy for so long that I didn't stop to see what was really there. I think all of us were like that. Our anger at it has clouded our judgment of the boy. Maybe Lord Third was right. Who knows?" Ibara narrowed her eyes at her friend. "How could you even think that? Look at the pain he caused you and me. Are you actually defending him?" She shook her head. "Nope, just saying maybe we need to reevaluate our thinking." Well, that's a start. Everyone turned to the voice of the newcomer only to widen their eyes in shock. Futeki pointed and stuttered. You're Kakashi Hatage." Iruka ignored her and looked at Kakashi, who was with Guy, and a face he hadn't seen in a long time. "Rin, is that really you?" She smiled at the guy. "It's been a while, Iruka. Still that clown, or are we all serious now?" "Sorry, Rin, I traded in my clown hat for the wonderful world of teaching," he informed the former chunin of the village. Iruka turns attention to Kakashi. "What brings you here, Kakashi?" Kakashi pointed behind him. "We decided to aid with the evacuation." Makinu addressed his senior officer. "Weren't you at the stadium, Lord Kakashi?" Sweat formed in the back of Kakashi's head as he heard that comment. Lord, he didn't really know what to say except yes. Rin scoped the room to see the injured and the medics that were helping them. She walked over to a man who had a large gash on his chest. Rin knelt down and one of the medics said in a sad voice, "We're doing all we can, but he doesn't look like he's going to make it. The best we can do is ease his pain." Rin placed her hands over his chest. "He can still be healed. Allow me the chance, if you will. I don't think it'll make a difference. Only Sakura, Shizune, and Lady Hokage can make the difference, but you're welcome to try." The confidence in her abilities were zero until he saw the blood clot and the wound start to slowly close. Kakashi addressed Rin. "You should stay here to help these people. When you're done, meet up with us back at the stadium. The threat is minimizing. We have to aid Lady Tsunade once we minimize the threat." Turning to Guy, who was standing quietly, "We have to continue with the evacuation." Guy nodded. "You're right, let's get going." Before Kakashi left, Hayami spoke. "Kakashi, did you see Big Brother Shinji out there? Also, how is Big Brother Naruto?" Kakashi turned to the girl. "Well, Shinji actually helped us out a lot at the stadium. Saying that he evened the playing field would be an understatement. He's been a factor in swaying the tide in our favor. Naruto, on the other hand, I really don't know. Last time I saw him is when he Raishined out of the stadium. He was looking for you guys, I think. Yes, actually, he saved us. Last time we saw him, he took off to fight a blue-haired shinobi from Cloud." "Sakura took off to fight the red-haired female from Cloud," Yumi informed him. Kakashi's eyes widened in horror. "Oh no," he turned to Guy immediately. "We have to get Naruto before he..." Rin spoke. "Don't worry about him, Kakashi. Trust in his ability. Trust that he knows what he's doing. You don't understand. That Cloud shinobi isn't a normal shinobi, his power is." She cut him off once more. "Which is why Naruto is the perfect matchup for him. Focus on helping the civilians, Kakashi, and forget about him. He'll be okay." Yumi looked down at the floor with a worried gaze. "I don't doubt he'll be fine, but I get this feeling that he won't be if he fights the Raikage. Whenever I think about him fighting the Raikage, I get a chill through my body, almost as if a flame has been extinguished. I hope you're okay, Naruto." Kakashi decided to listen to Rin. He turned around and motioned for Guy to follow him. Rin, who was still healing the man, turned to Kakashi, looking at the exposed Sharingan. Kakashi. He understood what she was getting at. He pulled down his headband covering the exposed Sharingan, and turned around to walk out, somewhere outside of the village. Gaara was in his Shukaku form while Alwasado was in his Soku form, and fully transformed with 4 tails. Gaara could feel Shukaku's bloodlust being transformed to his own. Using the sand beneath him created by his previous attacks, he shot forth a large stream of sand at Alwasado. Shooting deadly venom from his mouth, Alwasado caused the stream to fall to the ground. He laughed at Gaara. "You can't hope to win like you are now, Gaara. Your strength is good, but in order to hope to compete, you have to be in sync with your demon. Why do you think I can control Soku's full power? It's because I have conquered my demon and I embrace it. Also, I have trained to the point where my body is adapted and can withstand the force of the 4-tail form. You fight it, and it creates a struggle for power between you. It doesn't matter, you'll die either way." Gaara shot bolts of sand at him, but Alwasado used the tails to swat them away. Gaara knew he was right. Shit, I have to release Shukaku. He's right, I can control Shukaku's 1-tail form, but the time in which I can maintain this state without him taking over isn't long. Even now, I'm doing all I can to keep him at bay. It's amazing that he and his Biju are in that sync. I didn't think it was possible to show off the full power of the Bijus without being taken over completely. My body can't handle Shukaku in his full power because I don't train as much. Really can't worry about that now. I must release Shukaku. Forgive me, everyone." Gaara emerged from deep within his body, transformed to appear on his head. He brought his hands together and performed his forced sleep jutsu. When Gaara's body went limp, a loud roar from Shukaku was heard. "Finally, I'm free, and if it isn't Soku..." "Wait, you're not Soku. You're his vessel, and I see you have access to all of his powers. I can't believe a human can handle the full power of any of the Bijus," Shukaku stated. Alwasado explained. Well, if you weren't listening, I informed Gaara that the reason I can access the full scope of Soku's power is because my body is at a point where I can sustain it. Soku's power is mine. Shukaku laughed maniacally. Ha, the Yonbi is always the weakest of all of us. I'll have fun killing you. Kill me? Your stand is useless against me, Alwasado pointed out. Die! Shukaku screeched before he shot a wind bullet at Alwasado, who avoided it by jumping in the air. Shukaku brought his hand forth and yelled out, "Wind style, sand, wind stream." A streamline of wind infused with a little sand shot through the air at Alwasado. Various cuts married his body, and the force of his landing created a small crater. Looking up to see Shukaku laughing insanely, he brought his hand forth and shot out a green scaled ball at him. Shukaku retaliated by shooting 3 winged bullets, one impacting Awasado's attack, and the other 2 hitting him dead on, causing him to fall on his back. Alwasado couldn't believe what was going on. He was losing. He didn't understand. Soku and himself were in complete sync with one another, and his body could withstand the transformed state. But still, he was losing to Shukaku. He started to feel sand wrap around his massive body. Struggling to get free, he sank deeper and deeper into the sand. Shukaku smiled. "I'll kill you now, boy. As for you, Soku, have fun going back to the other side again, you weak fool. Now die." Closing his hand into a fist, Shukaku closed his hand until the area in which Alwasado was swallowed by the sand turned into a deep crimson. Shukaku gave a loud, boisterous laugh. "Yes, I'm finally free. I sense that bastard, the Kyuubi and Hogo. Wait, it's faint, but I also feel the Hachi, but they're all contained in a vessel. I'll send them back to the other side, especially that bastard fox in his container, interfering with my fun 6 years ago. He'll pay dearly." Shukaku was heading in the direction where he sensed Naruto and Koen, but he jumped back when a frog shot a water bullet in his path. The tailed beast was about to shoot a wind blast, but acid was shot from his left, which he dodged. Looking at Gimbunta and Katsuya, he laughed. "You again, you damn frog. Who's the slug? It doesn't matter, I'll kill you both. Die." Shukaku didn't have time because Manda wrapped himself around the demon and sunk his teeth into the right side of his neck. Anko yelled out to Jiraiya, "Now's our chance, wake Gaara up." Shukaku was still free enough to shoot a wind blast at Gimbunta, but it never reached. Tamari appeared in front of Gimbunta and yelled out, summoning quick beheading dance. A large weasel with a scythe created a massive force of wind, which cancelled out Shukaku's blast. Tamari and Shikamaru landed on the frog's head. Tamari yelled out, "Get closer, I'll take care of the wind blasts." Gimbunta didn't have time to complain about the people on him. He knew that Shukaku needed to be stopped now. Anko saw that Mondo was struggling, so she yelled out, "Hurry, we can't hold him any longer." When Gimbunta was within range, Shikamaru used his shadow imitation jutsu and attached it to Gaara. He looked at Jiraiya. "Hit me now!" Jiraiya was reluctant, but realized what the boy was trying to do. He cocked back his fist and punched the Naruto boy square in the cheek. Gaara's head snapped back. Shukaku felt Gaara was waking. He cursed everyone there. "You bastards, I can't go back. I was just having fun. No!" The golden glow that was once in his eyes left, returned to a dull gold. Gaara's eyes opened up slowly and he was back in control of the large body. He looked around to see a large snake wrapped around Shukaku's form. Sakura standing on Katsuya, his sister Jiraiya and the Nara all in Gimbunta. Gaara transformed back to his regular form, causing a large amount of sand to crash to the ground. The area looked like a desert. Anko motioned for Manda to release him, which the snake did. All the summons were tired. Manda spoke. "Well, since I ate that summon, your debt has been cleared. Next time I want 50 human sacrifices. You got that?" Anko nodded, then he disappeared. Gimbunta's eyes shifted up. "I would love to stay to see Naruto fight, but I'm at my limit. Tell me how it goes, Jiraiya." The frog disappeared, causing everyone to fall to the ground. Sakura jumped off of Katsuya. "You are dismissed, Katsuya." The slug nodded. "Take care of yourself, Lady Sakura." She disappeared. Everyone walked towards Gaara, who was standing a few feet away. He looked at Tamari. "Tamari, Don't worry, Gaara. I know you didn't have any other choice. I'm just glad you're back," Tamari said to her little brother. Gaara turned towards the area that Alwasado was at. The sand in that area started to move, and his body slowly climbed above the sand. He was back in his regular form, but heavily injured. Gaara walked over to the man who lay there defeated. When he and the group got next to the man, Gaara spoke. I never knew anyone who could control their demon. How were you able to? Alwasado formed a weak smile. One day, you will see Gaara of the desert. Gaara turned to Sakura. Heal him. He has the answers we need. She looked at Gaara. We? Jiraiya placed a hand on her shoulder. Just heal him, Sakura. Everything will be explained later. Sakura didn't understand why they were helping the enemy, but she knelt down and did what Jiraiya said. Her hands started to glow over his chest and began to heal the man. She looked back at Jiraiya. We can't take him back to the village. We still have a war, and without the proper facilities, this is all I can do. He'll live, but I can't do the treatment necessary. Gaara stepped forward. I don't care, he just needs to be alive. Now answer me. How were you able to control your demon's powers? He smiled at Gaara. Afraid of losing control, Gaara. If you're afraid, then you will never control your demon. Gaara narrowed his eyes. That's not what I asked. Give me a straight answer, damn it. Alwasado smiled. In due time, Gaara. In due time. His eyes closed, and his head went limp. Sakura turned to Gaara. He just passed out. He should be fine in a few hours. We can't worry about him. We have to head back to the stadium. The pain and exhaustion finally set in for Gaara. He fell forward only to be caught by Temari. She placed his arm over her shoulder to support him. Gaara looked at Alwasado. Damn, he has all the answers to our problems. If we could control this power, then it wouldn't be a burden for us to use it. Jiraiya bent down and picked up Alwasado. You're right. I'll take him somewhere safe and keep an eye on him. I don't know how this guy did it, but he did what many thought could not be done. I will take him to Ippiki and have him detained for the time being. Anko spoke. Well, I guess we better head back to the village. There's still many enemy shinobi that need to be dealt with. Sakura cracked her knuckles. Then let's show them the combined strength of the leaf and sand. Shikamaru shook his head but was smiling all the while. Troublesome, but what choice do we have? Gaara removed his arm from around Temari and told everyone. Go without me. I will only be a burden until I regain my strength. I'll catch up. I just need to rest. Sakura was about to protest, but Temari interrupted. As you wish, Lord Kazekage. Let's go, everyone. Anko was the first to phase out of sight along with Sakura, who was reluctant to leave Gaara behind. Shikamaru decided to leave the two siblings alone. Temari looked at Gaara with worried eyes. Is everything okay, Gaara? Yes, go Temari and aid the leaf shinobi. I will catch up when I have enough energy. She didn't like leaving her brother, but she knew when Gaara made up his mind, that was it. She blurred out of sight, leaving Gaara alone. Looking to his left, he saw Kankuro and Matsuri running towards him. Looking away, Gaara turned to his right. Seems like another intense battle is getting underway, somewhere outside of the village. Kaito was now in a fighting stance. He and his younger brother exchanged a few blows, but nothing too serious. With his sword at his side, Kaito's facial expression was that of a man who was more than serious. I don't understand you, Koku. You know I didn't want to be Mizukage. I'll never forgive you for killing Taro and Fugu. Koku laughed. I'm not asking for your forgiveness, brother. I just want to kill you and end it here. I have been preparing for this day for so long, you have no idea. Gripping on his sword firmly, Kaito spoke. Then why waste away? Let's finish this. Extending his hand in front of him and letting the sword drop, Kaito did hand seals at an accelerated speed. His black sword was suspended in air, hovering inches from the group. He brought his hands together to form the tiger seal, and held them there. The sword had a light blue outline around it as it remained suspended in the air. The ground started to shake. It didn't take long for water in the form of dragons to erupt from underground and scattering in all directions. Koku didn't seem impressed by the large volume of water as it swallowed him, and elevated Kaito from beneath his feet into the air. Kaito, who was standing on the water, had risen 50 feet above ground, and looked below where his brother was swallowed. He narrowed his eyes. I see, he's improved a lot. Kaito jumped high in the air and watched as a whirlpool formed where he stood. He could see his brother now looking at him with hateful eyes. Koku performed an upward slash that caused a grayish-black water monster to shoot from the blade. As the ghostly figure came at him while he was still in the air, Kaito canceled the technique with a horizontal slash. He landed a few feet away from his brother, who was standing on the water with Kaito. Koku, whose bluish-green hair was wet from the water, attacked Kaito. Koku smiled. I wasn't expecting you to use Imperial Flood this early. What's the matter, Kaito? No new techniques? Kaito smirked at his brother. More than you can handle, that's for sure. What about you, using Hateful Soul so early? That's not like you at all. Well, I figure since you were getting serious that I should as well. I must say, though, for you to cancel it out with just a slash, you certainly have gotten better, Koku said in a nonchalant tone. You say that like it's supposed to harm me. You never were able to beat me with that or any of your techniques from what I can remember. Shall I refresh your memory, brother? Kaito's sword started to glow as he slipped into his stance. Koku shook his head. You still don't understand, do you? If you think that I haven't improved in 12 years, then you are sorely mistaken. I have surpassed you, brother. Allow me to prove it. Koku threw his sword high above his head and performed the necessary handstands for the technique he was about to use. Kaito's eyes widened in shock. This can't be, you. Koku smirked. Yes, I have mastered it, brother. Now witness. Akron. The sword known as Sanazunakoa was now suspended in midair. The gray sword turned black in the sky that was once blue, turned pitch black in Kaito's eyes. The water in which he was standing upon turned into murky water. Looking around, Kaito knew that he was in trouble. His father told him of this technique. As far as genjutsus went, it was one of the strongest. Countering it was near damn impossible unless you possessed the Sharingan or the Byakugan. He had neither bloodline limit. Koku, who was standing before his older brother, laughed. You now see how useless it is, brother. I will definitely kill you. Kaito was cursing himself. Shit, I underestimated him. I have to find a way to break this jutsu. Slowly rising from the murky water was a man with long red hair and green eyes. The man had a sword through his chest and blood was slowly dripping down it. He spoke. Hello there, Kaito. You look shocked to see me. What, thought I wouldn't return back to life? Kaito tried to ignore the man. His eyes narrowed at his brother. You bastard, how dare you insult Fugu? I'm not insulting anyone. You really have no idea how this technique works now, do you, brother? Sure, it's a genjutsu, but it's different from other genjutsu. This is not controlled by the caster. This jutsu is controlled by you and your guild. Why do you think it's called Akron? Kaito understood better. He closed his eyes. Okay, just accept the fact that his death wasn't my fault. Then I can get past this technique. Kaito turned to Fugu. I'm sorry, Fugu, but it wasn't my fault. It was Koku, Kaito said to the man. The image of Fugu responded. Your brother may have killed me, but you weren't there to stop him. You broke your promise, friend. We swore we would always have each other's back, right? Where were you when I needed it? Kaito kept trying not to feel guilty and convince himself that it wasn't his fault, but he just couldn't overcome that feeling of guilt and regret. He turned away, only to see Zabuza staring him dead in the face. So, you finally decided to fight him after all these years. Why not then? Why now? You left us. I trusted you, and you abandoned me. Zabuza's words hit home with Kaito. He backed away slowly, only to back into Kisame. Long time, friend. Still scared to stop your brother? I would have killed his ass, but you let him become Mizukage, thus giving him the resources to stop me. I always told everyone you were a coward and you shouldn't have been the leader. Raiga appeared on his left. I thought I'd never see the day when Kaito Saichi gave up. Another voice appeared from behind him on his right. They're right, you know. Kaito turned around to see his dear friend Tara. The sea green hair and her sun-colored eyes made him back away unconsciously. He whispered, Tara. She shook her head. I'm very disappointed in you, Kaito. You ran, even after I warned you. You blew it off and my life was taken as a result of that. Kaito, you were weak. Allow us to put you out of your misery. Tara drew her katana. Raiga drew his too. Fugu's long thin blade was drawn, and so was Samehada. Kaito kept whispering to himself. I did nothing wrong. He closed his eyes and thought. I did run away though when I was needed most. I couldn't even save Tara. Zabuza had his beheading sword drawn. Kaito was forced to raise his defense. He didn't want to, but he had no choice. The first to attack was none other than Zabuza. Kaito blocked it with much ease. Samehada came from behind, but he flipped over it. When he landed, he had to block Fugu's incoming strike, which he did. Raiga's lightning was also dodged by jumping to the side. Kaito landed, but Tara appeared on his right. This surprised him completely. Her blade was inching closer toward him, and he didn't have any time to dodge. Blood was now floating in the air, slowly descending to the ground. Kaito appeared 20 feet away from everyone. Blood was slowly dripping from the gash on the side of his neck. Damn, she could have killed me. Maybe I should have let her though. I did fail them. Kaito put his head down, showing his anger and the shame that he didn't allow others to see. All of these emotions were bottled up for the last 12 years. Koku, who was watching from afar, was just smirking. So, you're feeling guilt and shame. Well, that is Akron's purpose. You fail to realize that this jutsu can't be broken. Most people can't overcome their guilt and their shame. I know you better than anyone, brother. You feel sorrow for their loss, and you wish you could have saved them, but you couldn't. The longer you stay in this technique, the stronger its influence over you will become. It will become so strong that you will eventually kill yourself through a mental breakdown. Kaito was dodging attacks from his former comrades. He was trying his best to find a way to break this technique, but his thoughts of breaking the technique were slowly fading and being replaced by the guilt bottled up inside of him. Kaito avoided a slash from Kisame by jumping back. Kaito landed and skid across the water in a crouching position. Kaito's eyes widened as he felt a sharp pain which caused him to look at his stomach. He was even more shocked to see that it was Karyu sticking through him. He immediately looked to his hand to see that his sword was gone. When he slowly turned his head to see who was responsible for sticking his own sword through him, he saw a man who looked exactly like him with a goatee. Kaito whispered, "Father." His father's eyes only showed disdain. "I'm disappointed in you, Kaito. Very disappointed. You don't deserve, Karyu. I entrusted with you so you could be this generation's Asamoah, but you are weak." The sword was ripped from his chest roughly. Kaito grabbed the hole in his chest. He started to think to himself, "This isn't real. I did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. I could have stayed, but I didn't. That was my decision. Regardless of what decision I made, I have to stand by it. I just wish I could break this jutsu." Kaito thought back to something his father told him when he was training him to use Karyu. Flashback, 23 years ago. Standing in the mistfield during the dead of morning, Kaito was standing before his father after one of their grueling training sessions. His father smiled at him. "I am very proud of your progress, son. Karyu is now yours. From this day forth, you will be this generation's Asamoah." Kaito was surprised when his father handed him the sword. He looked at the sword, then back at his father. "But why? I thought this was yours, Dad. Why give it to me?" "Simple, really. It has chosen you. You see, son, each of the 7 swords chooses their next wielder. In a sense, it's kind of like Heaven's Blade that was wielded by Anshin of the Minashu clan. His sword has been passed on to his son Ryuho, and my sword will be passed on to you." Those words caused a smile to form on Kaito's face. He was happy, but he had to ask about his brother. "Father, what about Koku? He will not like this." "Your brother has been selected to wield Sanazukawa. That sword, if used correctly, outclasses Karyu in certain aspects. But you and your brother side by side will usher in the new generation of the 7 swords in the mist," his father informed. Kaito was curious about the sword his brother was to wield, so he started to question his father more. "What makes it better than Karyu in certain aspects? I thought that this sword was the strongest in the mist." His father began to explain. "Karyu is considered to be stronger, rightfully so, I might add. But in certain aspects, Sanazukawa surpasses it. Sanazunokawa has 5 techniques that correspond to the rivers that run through the underworld. The 5 techniques are Akron, the river of sorrow; Kokutis, the river of lamentation; Phlegikatron, the river of fire; Styx, the river of hate, which is this sword's namesake; and last but not least, Eridanos, the river of ice." The 19-year-old Kaito wondered if his father had ever seen any of these techniques up close. "Father, did you ever witness any of these techniques?" The boy's father nodded. "Yes, I have, which is why I'm telling you the strengths of this sword. Akron, or the river of sorrow, casts a genjutsu that is virtually impossible to break if you have not come to terms with what you have or haven't done. Remember my words about Akron, or Yushoku. It is probably the strongest technique from that sword. It's even stronger than Karyu's Sanji. Now Styx potential can surpass this one as well. It just depends on the wielder's hatred. The more hate that is pumped into the sword, the stronger the attack from the sword will be. I have seen Styx, or Niku Kanton as it is often called, do some serious damage during the wars. Kaito took in every word. He wanted to know more about the sword. So what about Kokutis, Evacuation, and Weath? All are very powerful techniques as well. Kokutis, also known as Koku no Nai, is a technique that causes the sword to vibrate and emit a sound that is so high that it can bring you to your knees. It is said to be the wailing of the dead souls that, while living, met their end at the sword. Phlegethon, also known as Okibi Ryusu. This technique is fire-based. Like its name, it shoots out streams of fire. That technique can be cancelled out by the technique that shares the same name as your sword, or Hyusu Ryujin. Now Leath, or Hitoku Itenbanjo, is a technique you hope that isn't used unless what? Kaito eagerly waited for his father to answer. Unless you have mastered Sujin, and you have yet to master it. Don't worry, I'm sure your uncle hasn't taught Koku how to use it yet. He's not ready to use it. Kaito's father's smile caused him to put his hands up to dissuade his father from finding out his true intentions. I wasn't asking because of Koku. I just want to know about the sword, Kaito informed. His father gave a light chuckle. Sure, you and your brother have always been competing against one another. That's good though, you'll continue to push each other to be better. I think he'll push you harder since the wielder of Kaoryu is usually the one to lead the 7 swordsmen of the mist. I guess that's why they call the wielders of this blade Asamoah. The nickname corresponds to being the first. Well anyways, have the other 5 been selected, father? Kaito questioned. His father nodded. Yes, you know 2 very well. Your best friend Tara will wield the Kokai. It seems Fugu will wield Shurin. That young Chunin, Kisame Hoshigake, will wield Samehada. Raige Kursuki, Unsui, and last but not least, Zabza Momochi will wield Kakushu. His ruthlessness is a perfect match for that sword, but he will never be as good as I know he can be if someone doesn't take him under his wing. That's where you come in. I want you to mentor the boy when he joins the 7. I will, father. So this means that I'll be teamed up with your comrades in the 7? Kaito wondered. Only 3. Your uncle and I are officially giving over our swords to you 2 today. From what I understand, Fugu and Tara have already been presented with their swords, Kaito's father explained. So what will happen with Kisame and Zabza for the time being? They will be trained to use their swords, and when the time comes, they will become members. Kisame is already undergoing training. Zabza's will start in 6 months. I currently assigned that kid to some missions. Either way, I think we should head back. The 2 started to head back to their home. After a few steps, Kaito's father placed a hand on his chest, causing him to stop. The look in his eyes showed the seriousness in them. Remember what I said about Sanazukawa. Never forget. Never forget. Kaito nodded. He didn't know what his father was so worried about, but he would do what he was told. He would store it for future reference. The 2 continued home. End of flashback. Kaito stood up and looked at his father. You're wrong. I am not weak. I will prove to all of you that I am not weak. None of your deaths will be in vain. You all lived through me. I wish I could have protected you, but I couldn't. But I will make sure that your killer is brought to justice. He will fall under this blade today, that much is certain. Kaito grabbed the sword from his father's hand. When he did so, he clutched with a tight grip. I am Asamoah, the sword that will guide the rest of the haze of the daylight. Watch me. Watch me. Kaito's body started to glow as did the dragon on Kaoryu, so everyone started to melt away before Kaito's eyes. The dark sky was being replaced by the image of the real world. Koku smiled at what was happening to his brother. It wasn't long until Kaito was finished. Finally, he had no one to worry about. He knew that Uzumaki would come after him for this, but he wasn't scared of the kid in the least. He didn't worry about Aisu, but he would handle him at a later date, he said. Koku's smile faded when he saw the dragons on Kaito's sword glow. 2 dragons shot from the water into the sky. After swimming in the air, the 2 dragons charged at Kaito full force. When they hit him, the water rose 40 feet high, encasing him in a tube of water. Koku narrowed his eyes at this. Using Sujin already, how pathetic. When the tube of water that encased Kaito fell, His whole body was encased in an outline of glowing water. With his expression more serious than ever, he performed an upward slash, which caused a large mass of water to fly towards Koku. Koku slammed his sword into the water. Try on Okibi Ryusi. Flames started to pour out from where the sword had struck. A large stream of fire, just as large in mass as the water that was coming his way, intercepted the body of water and turned it into mist. Koku was stuck in the mist. When Kaito popped up from behind him, Koku quickly blocked the sword. I see you decided to only use Sujin to break the Genjutsu. You didn't master it, did you, brother? Which is why you can't stay in that form long. Struggling in a sword standoff, Kaito responded. As always, you think you know everything. I have mastered Sujin, if you must know. Just be lucky I've decided to show you mercy, my adorable little brother. Koku glared at him. I'm gonna kill you for that. The brothers jumped back as neither was giving an inch in the standoff. Landing on the water, the two stood about 20 feet from one another. Kaito closed his eyes, took a deep breath, opened them, and then looked at Koku. I'm going to end this, Koku. This is the end of the line. Koku didn't even waste time. When he disappeared from view, Kaito's eyes widened. The Mizukage swung his sword at the head of the blue-haired shinobi, and reacting as quickly as he could, Kaito shinshuined away, avoiding the slash. Only a few strands of hair were caught in the mix. When Kaito landed a few feet away, he immediately had to jump to the other side to avoid a slash. Goddamn, he's faster than me. Normally that wouldn't be a problem, but he knows my style better than anyone else. I guess I have to use that, then I can turn the fight into my favor. Thinking quick, he pointed his sword in front of him. Koku appeared in front of him and with a horizontal slash cut Kaito in half at the waist. He smiled at his victory, until he realized that Kaito burst into water. He was looking around for Kaito. He found him standing on his right. He then turned to find Kaito standing on his left. He started to notice there were more than one Kaito. Koku shook his head. You really haven't improved, have you, brother? Hiding behind Sanshi. This illusion won't work on me, brother. I know you can make me see whatever you want. I guess you realize that I'm faster, so you were hoping that this slowed me down, right? Kaito, the real one who was a few feet away, gritted his teeth. He's right. At least having him see false images of me will give me the chance to fight him. I can't believe you surpassed me. I got too lax. What am I saying? I can still win this. Koku's sword tip was facing the water as he held the hilt in the palm of his hand. Dropping it, he did a few hand seals before the sword hit the water. The tip was actually the only part of the sword touching the water. It was suspended in air. Then he gave a wicked grin. I Koku nai. Kaito heard a low pitch. Realizing what was going on, he attempted to cover his ears, but found himself dropping to his knees as the screeching sound was agony to his ears. The images before Koku started to fade until he saw Kaito a few feet away on his knees. Having no choice, Kaito raised his sword as high as he could, then slammed it into the water, and shouted, Kaoryu! A large wave started from where the sword was, and it directed itself at Koku. Coming at him with so much force, he grabbed his sword that was suspended in air. Not having enough time to counter, he was caught up in the force of the wave. Koku was swallowed by the wave. His brother, who was still on his knees due to the sound's effect on his equilibrium, slowly regained himself and rose. Kaito was breathing hard. This fight was taking more out of him than he thought. He thought he slowed down Koku enough until the water started to boil, and bubble and steam started to rise. Kaito brought his sword, which was facing the sky, close to his chest and screamed out, Ah! Flames erupted around him and continued to erupt until the body of water that he created earlier was completely encased in flames. Somewhere outside of the village, 5 minutes prior, Naya was looking at the flames that rose high enough for all to see. She glanced at the cloud shinobi at her feet, who was struggling to hold on to his life. She ignored him and turned back towards the direction she knew Kaito was in. You better hold on till I get there. Using her speed, she headed towards his direction. Jumping through the trees, Naya was using all her speed to get to her destination. She may have claimed that he was a nuisance and that he got on her nerves, but she didn't want to lose him. Knowing that she should have headed towards the stadium to help Tsunade with Aisu, she decided to follow her heart. Kaito was a priority. She would never say that to him out loud. Naya continued to push forwards towards Kaito, present time somewhere outside of Konoha. Koku was standing in a large mass of water that was now decorated with a few flames that danced on the top of the water. On anybody else, that technique would have been the end, but on his brother, the one who controlled Kaoryu, that wasn't the case. Kaito was standing a couple feet in front of him, breathing hard. I had to use Sujin again. If I didn't, I would have been a goner. Used to seeing all of his techniques effectively. I've got to end this. He has to pay. I'm the only one that could stop him. Correction. I am the only one who should stop him, Kaito thought to himself. His brother, on the other hand, had different plans. I can't believe you forced my hand. I thought I would never have to use this. I'll show that I've always been the strongest, and that you've always been the weakest. Father made a mistake when he selected you to become Mizukage. Kaito's eyes narrowed. That's why you killed him? On the contrary, I killed him because he wanted to change the village. The fact that he selected you didn't matter at all. That old fool setting it up so that our village would be peaceful as the tree-hugging, leaf-loving fool in Konoha. Our village has, and will always be respected as the Bloody Mist, the most ruthless of the 5 great nations. Father had to die. That change would have made the village suffer. Fugu and Taro were strong advocates of the old man's beliefs, and with them in the way, it would have presented me with a problem. So not wanting any problems, I killed them. You, I wanted to kill, but I couldn't. I wasn't strong enough at the time to do that. Among the 7, your level of skill eclipsed us all. Also, you were one of Father's advocates as well. You becoming Mizukage didn't sit well with me, so I did all I could to turn the people of the village, who loved and adored you, against you. Once I did that, it caused you to flee the village and I had control. I knew, however, that it wouldn't be absolute as long as you were alive. So I got stronger and stronger, and now I stand here before you ready to kill you, Kaito whispered. So you did all this to keep the old bloody ways of our village. You make me sick. Maybe so, but you're going to die. For pushing me this far, you'll be the first of our generation to witness. Hitoku Intinbanjo, Koku informed Kaito. Koku threw his sword in the air once more. Doing the necessary hand seals for the jutsu, he came to a stop and so did the sword. Suspended in air, the sword started to spin furiously. Kaito's father warned him about this technique. He braced himself for the jutsu. In the blink of an eye, he was transported to another dimension. At least from what he could tell. Must be another genjutsu. He was correct in his assumption, partially anyway. The area that the two were fighting in had an invisible barrier. To someone outside of the perimeter of the barrier, it looked like nothing was there. However, this was not the case. Inside the barrier, Kaito could see a room filled with mist. Koku emerged from the misty room. Welcome to Hitoku Itinbanjo, your final resting place, big brother. A ninjutsu and a genjutsu combined. What a powerful technique this is. You'll see what I mean. Kaito didn't have time to react as blood erupted from his shoulder. Feeling the pain, he tried to create distance by jumping away, but felt the kick to his face that sent him in the opposite direction. Landing and breathing hard once again, Kaito was contemplating his next move. This alternate reality, or genjutsu, was something that he knew he had to break fast. Sunjin was his only way, but he didn't want to use it. Rather, he couldn't, not completely anyway. It was like Koku said, he hadn't mastered it completely. That would be his last resort. He figured he could hold Koku off, but a slash of the gut caused him to rethink that. Falling to his knees, Kaito's left hand clutched his stomach. Appearing from the fog in front of his brother with his sword raised high, he gave a wicked smile. With you gone, there will be no doubt, and my power will be absolute. Goodbye, Kaito. Your time here is long since expired. As Koku brought the sword down to claim Kaito's head, he closed his eyes. As the sword inched closer and closer, it was blocked before it reached his head. Kaito forced him to jump back when he pushed his sword forward. When he was fully erected, the water that was glowing started to surround his body once more. Koku was greatly angered seeing this, his facial expression visually confirming this. Kaito, who was bleeding, glared at his brother. I should have mastered it, but I never had the need to. I guess I'm the one who got lazy. Kaito disappeared from his spot. When he appeared behind Koku, he slashed at his head only to strike mist. Using his speed, Kaito blocked the sword aimed for his heart. His brother concealed himself in the mist again. Normally for Kaito, fighting someone in the mist would be easy. However, this way his brother's genjutsu and ninjutsu fused into one. Kaito knew he only had one chance of escaping this technique. Raising his sword to the heavens, the dragon on Kaori started to glow once more. Kaito's whole body turned into water, then exploded. This explosion created a large mass of water with a current so strong that the barrier in which they were contained in broke. Everything within a 2-mile radius became part of an ocean. A A minute later, Naya was walking on the body of water. She was actually searching for Kaito. Actually, she was kind of worried for him. She prayed nothing happened to him. Naya looked around. Finally, she looked down to see bubbles. Immediately thinking it was Kaito, when she saw bits of blue hair, she ran towards it. Naya's sixth sense for danger kicked in when a man swung a sword aimed at her throat, popped out of the water. Doing a back handstand to create distance, Naya glared at the guy. Koku laughed. I didn't think you'd be here, big brother Naya. Worried about your husband, I see. Don't worry, you'll be joining him shortly. Naya narrowed her eyes at Koku. Bastard. Don't confuse me with your daughter. Don't forget, Naya, I know the real reason why you retired as a shinobi from the Leaf. You and my brother, your affair with him was enough to get the villagers on my side, and convince them that he murdered my father. It was so believable because they thought that he was trading secrets to Konoha. You retired because you didn't want to face that same problem, also making my niece a Jinchuriki. Then abandoning her at 9 wasn't nice at all. The glare that Naya gave him was satisfying. Koku continued. Is that why Kaito took Naruto under his wing? Naya's eyes widened at the mention of Naruto. So you knew that he was a Jinchuriki? He shook his head. Not at all. I just found out today. But it makes sense now. So, Minato's death was because he used himself as a sacrifice to seal the Jinchuriki in Naruto. Now that I'm thinking about it, they do favor. I'm assuming Uzumaki is his son. Naya's eyes narrowed even further. This confirmed his speculation. So it's true, I see what my old man was getting at with the unification of nations. You and Kaito's relationship would have made our nations allies, kind of how Leaf and Sand are now. Since Minato is your teammate, the Hokage, and good friends with my brother, who is to become Mizukage, it would have only been a matter of time before our nations would be allies. Now I see it all clearly. Safiya and Naruto were to be the link between the two villages, even though Minato knew he wouldn't be around to see it. No wonder the third Hokage and my father had relations. But you didn't want that, did you? You're pathetic, Koku. Your own selfish desires have led to the turmoil the Leaf in the Mist were trying to bury. Safiya has always been a smart child. I'm sure she understands why we left her in Mist. She will never be your weapon. Her destiny, along with those in her generation, was to change and forge a better future than the ones that our ancestors built. You are much like Danzo. Nothing but war. I have no choice. I was saving this for Aisu, but I'll have to use it on you. Naya was doing the hand seals necessary but stopped short when the water underneath her started to shake. In front of her, a huge dragon shot out of the water. Standing on the dragon was Kaito. Not wasting any time, the dragon charged at his brother. Koku tried to cancel it out by doing his own water dragon jutsu. This was the distraction Kaito needed and wanted. Because he appeared in front of Koku before the younger of the two could react, he had slashed diagonally across his chest. Still in his Sujin form, Kaito landed in front of Naya with his back to his brother. Koku fell to his knees, holding his chest. He wasn't expecting Kaito to use the dragon as a distraction. He was careless, he thought. Kaito gave Naya a side glance. Why did you come? You're needed elsewhere. I told you I would handle this. I do what I want. I chose to come here. Deal with it. Kaito ignored her and raised his sword high above his head. Koku, this time you will understand the power of Sujin. There will be no escape. This time, you die. A big wave rose 100 feet above behind Kaito and Naya, speaking so only Naya could hear. Grab a hold of me. Whoever is holding on to me will not be swept up in the current. Naya placed a hand on his shoulder. Koku, who was holding his chest, glared at his brother and waited for him to bring his sword down. When Kaito decided to do so, about 40 shinobi from Mist surrounded Kaito, Naya, and Koku. One shinobi, however, was standing in front of Koku, acting as a barrier between herself and him. A young female shinobi with blue hair and brown eyes, wearing the traditional Mist Jonin outfit, had her left hand extended with her palm open. I will not allow you to kill our Mizukage. Naya and Kaito couldn't do anything. The girl who stood before them, who was in her early 20s, was none other than Safiya. Koku laughed. See, your own daughter stands against you, brother. What will you do now? Before Koku could finish his laugh, a firm kick was placed to his jaw that sent him a few feet away. The Jonin turned to her men, placed the Mizukage under arrest. He is charged with the murder of the 4th Mizukage and 2 members of the 7 Swords. Koku sat up and placed his hand under his jaw. You little bitch. After all I've done for you, you go and betray me? Your loyalty should lie with me. Safiya, with the stern, unemotional gaze, responded. My loyalty has and will always lie with the village. You brought this on yourself, Uncle Koku. Koku laughed once more. You have no proof that I committed what you are accusing me of. Shinobi of the Mist, arrest her, Kaito, and Naya. Koku's smile faded when his men were glaring at him and not moving. He yelled, I said arrest them. Kaito, who was still in a Sujin form, smiled. I wonder why they're not listening to you, brother. Kaito turned and revealed the communication device that was in its hair. It was damaged from the battle, however the one that Sophia revealed wasn't. Sophia spoke once more. You admitted to killing them with your own words. You will pay for your actions. Again, arrest the Mizukage. No, arrest Koku Saichi. One of the Mishinobi appeared in front of Koku. Doing hand seals, he placed a hand on the extremely injured Mizukage's head. In doing so, the heavily injured Mizukage passed out. Place him under restraints. Use a level 4 binding seal that should be enough to contain him. Also, get a medical squad to him immediately. I don't want him dying on us. He will stand trial for his crimes, Sophia stated. The shinobi bowed to her and did as she said. Her gaze turned to Kaito and Naya. The glowing water around Kaito evaporated. He fell to the ground in extreme pain. Naya acted on instinct and dropped to her knees to tend to him. Sophia just watched as Naya tended to Kaito. He won't make it at this rate. Sujin must have taken a toll on his body. What made it even worse was that the injury he received prior. If he had not received that injury, the drain wouldn't have put him in a critical state. Sophia walked over to Naya and Kaito. Kaito gave a weak smile. I see you're bossy like your mom. Sophia didn't react to this comment. She just gave him a once-over, then looked at Naya. I will make sure that he is okay. Naya wanted to say so much to her, but she couldn't. It was like her mind went blank. The only response she was able to give was, Alright, are you taking him home? Yes, we're taking him back to Mist. You're welcome to join, Sophia offered. I would love to, but I can't. You don't know what's at stake in this war. Aizu must be stopped, and well, I have designed a seal that will stop him. That's the only way to stop him, Naya informed. He must be a strong guy if you are the one who's performing the jutsu to seal off his power. I seen him fighting at the stadium. With your movement, you will never get close enough to touch him, Sophia pointed out. I know, that's where my apprentice comes in. Both of us will designate an area that will contain his power and drain it, Naya informed. Sophia ran through a few hand seals, placed her hand on her father's body. A blue barrier formed around his body. Naya was impressed by the seal. I see you learned how to place someone in suspended animation, Sophia nodded. I've learned quite a lot over the years. I had an excellent teacher for my first 9 years who gave me the foundation I needed to become a master at Queen Jutsu. What about the past 13? Naya asked. The girl looked in the eye. Those were spent on being able to control my Biju, start training with the Koku, becoming stronger, and understanding why my parents left me. I have a better understanding why they left. What I don't understand is, why didn't you and Dad take me with you? Naya began to explain. You were safer in the village, and that's all I will say for now. Your father and I were on our own, hiding. It wasn't until recently that we were able to link up together. We kept tabs on you through the shinobi that were loyal to your father. Sometimes your father and I would infiltrate the village at the risk of our own life to see you. That necklace you're wearing, I'm sure it was on your table the day you graduated from the academy, along with the sword that you carry on your back. Did you ever read the inscriptions on the inside of the necklace? Taking off her necklace, she looked at the inscription on the inside that read, Congrats, love always, Mom. She quickly put the necklace back on her neck and concealed her emotions, but the thought that ran through her mind was, they were protecting me, so they didn't stop loving me. Naya broke the silence. Leaving you was the hardest thing in the world I had to do, but if I had to make that decision again, knowing that you would be safe, I would make it in a heartbeat. The blue-haired ninja looked away. Looking at her father for a quick second, she turned her head to one of the jonin who were standing off to the side. Inform all Miss Shinobi that we are retreating. The shinobi gave her a weird look. We're pulling out, but our allies will have to fight their personal war by themselves. This is not the Mist's problem. Send out a flare. The shinobi didn't question her again. He pulled out the flare and shot it in the air. Sophia placed Kaito over her shoulder, then looked at Naya. Be careful out there. We have a lot to talk about. I have a lot of questions that need to be answered from the two of you. Naya understood completely. She didn't expect to get off scot-free. She watched as her daughter motioned with her free hand for the shinobi of the Mist to move out. All of the Mist shinobi blurred out of view. Sophia, however, remained. She said one more thing before going out. Naruto Uzumaki is about to fight that guy from Cloud. From what I can sense, the guy from Cloud has full control over his Biju. Naruto, however, does not. You might have to stop him if he gets out of hand. I hope the seal for Aisu is a level 6 seal, or else sealing off his power will be impossible. Naruto is strong. He'll be fine, Naya said. In any case, be prepared. If I drew on the power of the 8 tails, I would have the power to stop him, but it's too hard to even think like that. If the Kyuubi gets control, he can access all 9 tails. My Biju is bigger than the 9 tails. I would have to put him down before he could reach all 9, if he goes that far. However, this isn't my war, so I will no longer play a role in it, Sophia said. Naya asked a question. You have the ability to sense the powers of the other Bijus? Yes, I however have an extra ability that allows me to sense a person's true ability, whether they're concealing it or not, but that's not all. I can sense the power of the Raikage, and well, let's just say you're going to need a level 6 seal for him. Honestly, I don't think it would matter if he goes all out. I don't think anyone can stop him, me included, Sophia pointed out. Nai spoke out loud to herself. I thought that Senzuru or even Naruto, who now has Heaven's Blade, would be able to stand a chance. Sophia raised an eyebrow. Wait, are you telling me that's the other power I feel with Naruto? What do you mean? I asked. There's a power that is strong with Naruto. However, it seems to be at war with the Nine Tails. I don't fully understand it. It's like it's trying to tame the Nine Tails' power. The deciding factor over which force will prevail is dependent on Naruto's will, from what I can determine, the Mishinobi said, informing Naya. What about Senzuru, the wielder of the Phoenix contracts? Does he stand a chance? Naya asked. I don't know. He's within a containment barrier that is masking his power. I'm guessing he's a threat if the Raikage went through all this trouble to seal him off. Sasuke Uchiha is pretty strong, but I don't think he stands a chance against Aisu. The Uchiha, if he could hold the curse level 3 seal for indefinitely, then yes. Since he can't, no. Now thinking about it, he might be the only one who can tame the Nine Tails enough from taking over Naruto. You better than anyone know about the power that lies in the Sharingan. You are elite shinobi. It isn't the most feared bloodline for nothing. It doesn't matter though. Sasuke Uchiha is occupied at the moment and will probably be drained from his current battle. If he wins, he's fighting an opponent who isn't going all out. At their base level, Sasuke Uchiha has the advantage, but using Curse Seal level 2, and his opponent using his ultimate form. I can't call it. I know that Sasuke will not go to level 3 if he doesn't have to. It's just too much of a strain on his body. He has not mastered that form as of yet. Naya took in all that her daughter said to her. She gave her a serious look. What about Tsunade? The girl returned the look. Her powers fluctuated, which I'm sure you could feel. However, Aisu has the upper hand. If your plan is not put into action as soon as possible, she is going to die. It's really that simple. I have to go. If Konoha is still here, I'll be back in 3 days with the status update. Blurring out of existence, Nai came to grips with what was said. If she didn't act, Tsunade would die. Naruto had powers fighting for supremacy from what she understood. If the Nine Tails got loose, then it was all over. Naya needed to think of her next move. She decided to take a few minutes to decide her next course of action. Outskirts of the village, Sasuke Uchiha was standing at the edge of the crater he created, smirking at his opponent. Are you still going to put up a real fight, or are you going to tell me where Koen is so I can get a real challenge? Kaito pulled himself off the ground. A real challenge, you say? I guess I have been playing with you too long, Sasuke Uchiha. I guess it's time I show you my true form. You're not the only one with an alternative power source, you know. I don't have the curse seal that you have, but I do have the ability to transform into something greater. After countless experiments, I have achieved successful results. I am the definition of bioengineered super soldier. Allow me to demonstrate. Balling up both hands and punching them together, Kaito's whole body turned as black as tar. His pupils disappeared completely. His iris and sclera were both neon yellow. Spikes started to form over his hand, creating a blade-like appendage on both forearms. A black tail also sprouted from behind him. Sasuke's eyebrows elevated slightly at the transformation. He noticed that green marks appeared on both biceps, both shins, and on his chest. They looked like seals, and after further examination, they were. Sasuke activated his Sharingan to prepare himself. He also placed a hand on his sword. Smiling, he thought, this should be interesting. Stadium. Tsunade was on one knee after being hit by a wind jutsu. Aisu's intense gaze just pissed her off. She knew, he knew, everyone that was watching knew that if this kept up, she would die. Seeing the flare in the air, she thought to herself, good, the mist is pulling out. It shouldn't take long for our combined forces to drive off the rest. Naruto's appearance with the fourth jutsu forced the majority of Rain and Rock Shinobi to retreat. Shinji's down there taking care of the rest effortlessly, and everyone else is helping with the evacuation. Once that's done, we'll have the full force to strike. I might as well strike now and take out the heart. Once the heart is gone from the enemy, everything else will fail. Tsunade stood from position. I guess it's time I put it all on the line. Oh, what do you have planned, Lady Tsunade? 30 years of storing chakra, and it comes to this. I never thought I'd be using the Genesis seal like this, but there's no other way. Tsunade performed the seal to release the Genesis seal. A thin red glow outlined her body. The purple seals caused by the release of the seal formed on her face. Tsunade could feel the power coursing through her veins. She redirected the technique to be used as a power boost. 30 years of chakra storage. The increase in power is more than was expected. She glared at Aisu. It ends here. Black flames started to flare up and surround Aisu, who returned the smile. That it does. That it does. Outside of the village, Naruto and Koen landed only a few seconds ago and was standing in the middle of the forest. Naruto's serious expression never left his face. Koen was smiling. His smile faded when two bolt squads surrounded both him and Naruto. One of the members of Cloud Special Forces spoke. Naruto Uzumaki, you've been marked for death by the Raikage himself. Koen was about to react but stopped when Naruto placed his left hand on his sword, which was positioned to be drawn from the right side. A strong wind came from Naruto's base and spread throughout. The shinobi got prepared. That was a sign he was preparing for a jutsu. Naruto drew the sword using his left hand, swinging it up diagonally from his right to his left, then bringing it up in a fast motion and placing it over his shoulder while looking at the ground. The shinobi present wondered why he did what he did. Koen knew the purpose, which is why he jumped out of the way to avoid the jutsu. Before any bolt members could respond, the whole area was decimated. Some of the trees split in multiple pieces as if they were sliced by an invisible sword. The bolt members suffered the same fate as the trees. Naruto looked up to see the damage that he caused. Sheathing his sword, he was looking for Koen. I know that technique didn't harm you, Koen. You can come out. Koen was standing on one of the few trees that were still standing. Impressive technique. Did you create that or did someone else? Naruto responded. Nope, it's all me. Don't worry. You'll get to see other techniques I've created. Well, if it's as weak as the previous one, then I'm not too worried, Koen countered. Naruto shot back another verbal punch, which is why you dodged. I think you should know that it's only about 50% complete. I created it years ago, so I still have much more to improve on. But had you not dodged it, you would have been over there with your friends. I would have survived. The only reason I jumped is because I didn't want their blood on me. I will say this though, you do have some talent. I can understand why Aisu's interested in you. Too bad you won't be fighting him though. Oh, why is that? Are you going to kill me? Naruto asked with a hint of sarcasm. Yes, this is a fight to the death. I don't care about this war. I just want to grow stronger and fight strong opponents. I am a warrior. You, my friend, you're a warrior as well, I can tell. You love fighting just as much as I do. It's evident in the way you fight. Look at your scrimmage with Kumoko. You weren't interested in her because she was not on your level. If you didn't think I was worthy, you wouldn't have agreed to fight me as well. But you did because you're not sure about my power, and you want to know if I'm stronger. Well, let me let you in on something that you might know. Your battle against me is pointless. How do you figure? Naruto questioned. I have a demon inside of me. I am known as what you would call, Naruto finished up. Jinchuriki, right? Koen smiled. So, you are familiar with my kind. Within me is the Gobi, one of the strongest of the Biju. His power is mine, Naruto. I want to know how far you will push me. Your friend Shinji pushed me to Three Tails. I'm hoping with you, I can go all out. You're a legend feared by many. Beating you would prove my strength, and I'll also be able to gauge myself. Naruto smirked. One of the strongest Biju, you don't say. Well, allow me to inform you, I am a Jinchuriki as well. Koen's eyes widened, then he broke out in a smile. Oh, you also have a Biju. then I wasn't wrong in selecting you, Naruto Uzumaki. Which of the weaker Bijus do you have within you? Weak? It was my understanding that the Kyuubi was the strongest of the tailed beasts, but if he's the weakest, then I guess I've been misinformed, Naruto said while shrugging. Koen couldn't believe what he was hearing. Here he thought that he could get a good fight but still prevail. Now he wasn't too sure if he could win. Uncertainty. This was feeling that he liked. He would enjoy this fight. Kyuubi, call on his power so we can see who is the strongest. Naruto shook his head. No, I'll fight you my way. Koen's smile faded. Either you do it or I'm going to beat you until you do. Naruto smirked. That's a chance I'm willing to take. The two shinobi stood in the middle area in which their battle was about to take place. Koen was going to see who was stronger, him or Naruto. He would get Naruto to draw on the Nine-Tails' power. He needed to test himself, and what better way to do it than to face the power of the legendary Kyuubi. He would get him to draw on it somehow. Naruto, on the other hand, was contemplating on drawing the power. Heaven's Blade, he was saving that for Aisu. Ryuho once told him that it was alright to use the Kyuubi. It wasn't okay to get dependent on it. That was his fear. Naruto knew that he would have to use it since Koen was a Jinchuriki like himself. He would wait it out though and see how far he could get with fighting him in his base form. The seals were already removed, so he was at his full potential in his base form. The question was how long would be able to last against the Jinchuriki in his base form. He would soon find out.